Hi, this is Melissa Ainsley with the 11 Intuitions podcast. Today's podcast is going to be kind of different. There's going to be a lot of tears, but I believe that this is one that's going to change a lot of people's lives. And I know it's going to be one that's going to change mine. I want to give a trigger warning. There's going to be talk about childhood assault. It's going to be a hard one to listen to, but it is going to also bring a lot of healing. It is my story, and I first want to preface that I'm not telling the story to hurt anybody. There's been a lot of shame that comes with this story, a lot of embarrassment, and there's a lot of people that haven't healed from this story. I'm not telling the story to out anybody. I'm going to do my best to keep confidentiality as much as I can. So I ask that anybody listening to this, that you understand that there are victims in this story. I'm a victim in this story. And the reason I'm telling this story is because the work that I do, the work that I have been called to do on this earth includes pain, but it also includes forgiveness, and it includes me seeing someone who was broken, and instead of choosing to heal because they didn't know how, they chose to hurt. And in that hurt, they had me and saw the goodness in me, and the goodness in me, and the goodness in me saw them pass. And now they are on the other side doing everything that they can to change. And that is also what this story is about. And it is a radical change and transformation. Buckle up, because something happened to me yesterday and the story has to be told. I'm going to be using some notes, and just please bear with me because it's going to be a little difficult for me to get through this, but I promise you by the end of it, it's going to change not only me, but a lot of people. I don't even know what the title is going to be. Yesterday, I had a very cathartic call with someone who used to be my student, but is now a practitioner with 11 Intuitions, Minda. On that call, Spirit basically said, you cannot carry this story in your body anymore. This episode is me basically listening. I'm going to talk about my weight, my health, my relationship with my dad, generational trauma, and how one secret has been living in my body for years. I am not here to drag anyone. I am not here to name names or expose people. I am here to tell my story from my lane so that maybe you do not feel so alone in yours. And this episode is not the audio of my session with Minda, but it was born out of that work. And she held up a mirror to me, and I realized that my body has been carrying my silence for a long time. I have struggled with my weight since I was 6 years old. And lately, I look at my camera every day for work, and I've watched my face get rounder again. I recently lost weight on medication, then stopped because my hair was falling out and my body was screaming no, and the weight has been coming back on. Over and over, I told myself I failed again. And yesterday on my call with Minda, Spirit said something that hit me right in the gut. My weight has become part of my identity. I decided somewhere that is who I am, the heavy one, the one who cannot get it together, the one who will die early if she does not fix it. But that's not true. My weight is not my identity, and it never has been. And then another deep layer came up, something I've always known for a very long time. I realized I've been hiding behind this body. I put on weight when it did not feel safe to be in a smaller body. And I told myself that if I were thinner, people would not take me seriously, or I would get a big head by doing this work. And I told myself that this would keep me humble. But the truth is, this body has been a shield. It has been protecting a very old, very painful story that I have been not willing to say out loud, and only a few people know. Part of this story is this. As someone I loved, someone very close to me, was abused by someone else in my family. It broke my heart, it shattered trust, and it rearranged my entire nervous system. I am not going to share their name. It's their story to tell, not mine, and they'll never share that story, and that's okay. I don't want them to. They've healed as much as they can. and they've moved on. And I'm not going to go into graphic details. What I am going to share is what that did to me as a daughter, as a mother figure, and as a human who was trying to make sense of it while still trying to keep the peace and hold a family together. The shame of that sat in my body. Shame that I did not see it sooner. Shame that I didn't respond perfectly. And shame that I stayed loyal to the wrong person for a while. And on top of that, shame for even loving someone who did something so awful. And you can probably feel how heavy that is. My body has been carrying that weight for years. And after today, I've realized I cannot keep swallowing my shame and expect my body to feel safe. So today, I'm going to tell this story. I'm going to stop fighting what I know I came here to do. My voice is meant to free people, and one of those people may be you. So here's the story. When I was little, I remember mainly on the weekends, the Disney movies would come on, and I'd remember crying to my mom that my pee-pee hurt, my girl parts hurt, and she would always tell me that I didn't wipe enough. And this happened very frequently, and I had to be very young. I remember when I was 6 years old at the daycare that I went to, that my friend, who I still know and love, Holly, hi Holly, we made a pact who could gain the most weight. It was just a joke. Well, I won because I'm still there. I remember I was 5 or 6. I remember that so vividly. It wasn't until I was older I found out why I was gaining that weight. I'm just gonna talk and put these pieces together. My father kept porn magazines and videos in the house all the time, where I could find them. I didn't know what they were. How do you know that when you're little? We had Cinemax at the house, freely HBO, you could watch that. So that was very prevalent in the house. And when you turned on to that, turned on is not a really good word, but your body does things. And so very sexualized when I was younger. I lost my virginity when I was in 8th grade, which was very young back then. I'm 51 years old. And now that's commonplace. That's not unheard of, being that young. But back then it was very, very young. How I even knew about that, And I just never put 2 and 2 together. And I know it was because he had things around the house. Why he kept them where I could find them, I had no idea. I had friends, and we, would be over there and would touch each other, again, being very vulnerable. But how do kids that young know about these things? I'm learning now there's got to be reasons for it. Sex was always a thing for me when I was a teenager and when I was older. And again, how do you know about that? Just going to keep saying that. My dad, he was always flirting with women, always. But I learned early on that he did not like women who were overweight. And so you'll come to find out, which I found out much later in life, that I learned that very young. So probably when I was 6, and I learned to put on weight to protect myself. I would have friends come over and he'd compliment them. And I was always embarrassed by that. Why would you do that? And it would be a running joke. Oh, he's just a flirt. Oh, all of that. Just a running joke. Oh, that's your dad. He loves to do that. But it was embarrassing. And he was an older man. I was a product of a second marriage. And the thing about him was I was always afraid he was going to die. All the time. Always afraid. Always, always, always afraid. Just had that, just deep, deep down, always afraid. And, come to learn that he outlived my mom. He lived until he was in his 90s. I never could just get over that fear. I never could get close to him because I always thought he was going to pass away. There's one very, very, very vivid memory I have in my teenager years that I still do not understand. I don't know if I want to have hypnosis to understand it. I remember waking up. My parents always went to work. Always. Or I think it was a school day. It had to have been. And I woke up naked on the couch. I have no memory of anything. Still to this day, I don't know why. And my parents were both sleeping. They didn't go to work that day. Never said anything. Nothing. I don't know what happened. Very vivid memories of my dad putting my mom down a lot. I know he loved her. I know he did. My mom was always depressed. Like, why can't you treat me better? Why can't you be nice to me? And I always vowed I would never, never allow a man to treat me like that. I just hated that. I remember one time we were going to one of his bowling parties, end of the year parties, and I was in the back seat, and he came out and he was opening up the door for my mom, and he said, "Come on, heifer." Oh my God. I came unglued. I was so mad at him. And I really think that was the day that he and I started having a contemptuous relationship. I could not believe that the man who was married to my mom would ever say anything like that. And my mom just cried. Horrible, horrible. Why would she do that? Why? Awful. So let's fast forward and move to us moving to Texas. Something changed when we moved here. He became angrier, just didn't seem like himself. Relationship between him and my mom, different. And I became my mom's protector at that time. I wanted my mom to leave him. I wanted her to come live with us. She refused. And him and I were fighting a lot. I just couldn't pinpoint what was going on with him. And like I told you during the beginning of the podcast, he was doing something to someone close to me. And they told me immediately. All of it just came flooding. Like, God, it makes so much sense now. Had no doubt whatsoever. What would you do in that situation? You've got a dad who you love. I loved my dad so much. It didn't matter if we were fighting. I loved him so much. What would you do in that situation? What did I do? Told this person, come with me. Get in the car. Immediately went to the police station. Turned him in. It was a Friday. We had to wait until Monday. Couldn't say anything. Couldn't say anything to my mom. Nothing. He was arrested on Tuesday. Whole world ended that day. It just hurts right now. Just telling that story. It hurts because I turned him in and I had to ruin everybody's life. But I did the right thing. I know I did. And it killed my mother. She was in the hospital, mental hospital, so many times. Can you imagine your husband doing that? People don't talk about how it affects families. You hear about how sick the person is. You hear about the family should have known. So, did we know? We had just like glimpses of like, what is going on? We were like, what is going on with this person that it happened to? But never, ever in our wildest dreams thought he was doing something. Never. And they are so freaking good at what they do. Grooming. So good. But once you find out, you put it all together and go, holy shit, were we fucking stupid. But they groom everyone. And so what happened to me that day? Well, I must have had a gift because I started seeing things, flashbacks of him and this person. I couldn't get it out of my head. It was awful. Absolutely awful. And I can honestly say, because I am being so vulnerable, that my relationship with my husband died that day too. How can you ever do something? I'll get back to that later. So he was arrested. I was with my mom. He admitted to it. Thankfully, he admitted to it. I was with my mom, the phone rang, and it was him. And I'm like, I'm so sorry, Daddy. I had to do the right thing. And he's like, put your mother on the phone. He didn't want to talk to me. He didn't want to talk to her. Of course, because he got caught. And he was angry with me. He didn't put me on his visitor list. I couldn't see him for months. But he had to keep that connection with her. And my godparents lived across the street. They were best friends with my mom and dad. And I went and told them. And that's when it all started. That's when they went and told everybody in the neighborhood. And that's when they went and smeared his name, my mom's name, best friends for so many years. I remember growing up with them. I never really liked them. They treated my mom like shit. Like my mom was the one who did it. Awful. My mom suffered so terribly. Again, this is something that people don't talk about. What happens to the family? So he was in jail and his sentencing got moved. And so they let him come out for a little bit until his sentencing on his recognizance or whatever. And that first night, my mom was so pissed at him that she took a knife and she cut up their mattress. She was so mad. I don't blame her. I don't blame her. Surprised she didn't hurt him. So much anger in her. He wasn't out for very long. We went to the sentencing, and I just knew he couldn't make it in prison. I just knew he couldn't because, what did they say? Sex offenders get killed. So anyway, he was sentenced to 3 years, and we just thought it was the end of the world because we knew he was going to die there. But we made the best of it. Took care of my mom. She lost his Social Security. My mom only got $600 a month to live off of. So hard for her. She was on disability for severe bipolar depression. This did not make it any easier for her. It was awful for her. We did the best that we could. Wrote letters back and forth to him. He was very remorseful, and he turned to God, found the chaplain, turned to God. The men there thought that he had committed murder, and he did not tell them otherwise. That was the way that he survived there. And he just worked and prayed, went to chapel, prayed, and he did what he could to survive there. And I think he ended up in 3 different places, and we would drive once a month, 3 hours there and 3 hours back to visit him. And he ended up getting out, and he came home, and he was a model citizen until the day that he died. And my godparents lived still across the street. Never would talk to him. I wouldn't talk to him either. Could never forgive him for what he did. And he registered every year. And, and anybody would ask, he would say, yes, I did it. I paid for it. I'm remorseful. I'm sorry. I'll live with it until the day that I die. Lost family over it. Lost friends. I tried to do a memorial for him. His best friend told me, don't spend the money because no one will come. So that's what life is like on this side of it. I want to get back to a little bit about the story here. Why do I talk about forgiveness and change? I forgave my dad for what he did. I had to. I couldn't let the anger kill me. But what did I forgive? And how did I forgive? Well, I learned why this happens. It's generational. You don't just become this. Something happens to you. And I'm learning that more and more. Something happened to him when he was younger. From my memory, from what he told me, twice. One from a woman, an older woman, and his father physically abused him, and his father was abused. What does that do to a person? He never went to therapy. And then you go in the military. You never get help. Generational. Abusive. They turn to alcohol. Where does it stop? Which generation is it going to stop? It has to stop in a generation. And that's why I'm doing this podcast. And I'm going to keep continuing doing these podcasts because it has to help somebody. I told him a few months before he died that I had figured out why I'm overweight. And he said, oh yeah? Well, what is that? Because he was always on me about my weight, always. And I said, it was because I was protecting myself from you. And he's like, what? And I said, yeah, because you didn't like fat women. And he's like, well, that's on you. That's an unhealed person. I tried to have conversations with him. And I told him, you will never understand me until you're dead. And I knew that. I knew he loved my mom. He cried when he talked about my mom. Her death was awful for him. So when he died, that's when the healing started. But it's also when my memories started. So what do you do when you forgot and you still don't really know, but you do know? And what am I talking about? So I have a lot of friends who have this gift. And I was sitting having dinner with one, and she said, your dad wants to talk to you. He wants to tell you he's sorry for what he did to you. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she said, when you were little. And then my mom was there. And she said she wants to tell you she's sorry she didn't protect you. But she couldn't have supported herself. And then I started remembering. And then I laughed. I literally laughed. And I said, you've got to be fucking kidding me. No. It's just crazy. It all made sense. So what did I do? I immediately made arrangements to take his ashes back home because I was pissed. I didn't want them here. And I went back home and I started talking. I started talking to my sisters and I started talking to my school friends who came over. And I was very depressed at that time. And I let them know about what has happened here. And then I asked him, did my dad ever do anything to you while you stayed at my house? And they just looked at me and they were like, no. Your parents were always so kind to us. Okay, thank you. How horrible, awful that was that I had to do that. But I could not live with the fact of knowing that it was possible. And why did I have to do that? Because when I was clearing out my dad's wallet, I found a picture of one of my friends when she was little in his wallet. Never knew it was there. He'd never let me have his wallet, and I always thought it was because there was money there. But that's when I started having the flashbacks of always going to the doctor in my private area, always in pain. But it dawned on me that my children never had that. And to this day, I still don't know what happened to me. But why am I gaining weight recently? So I had a hysterectomy a couple years ago. And of course, doctors like, you don't need to have pelvic organ therapy until something goes wrong. You're fine. Well, of course, who has pelvic organ prolapse problems? Me. So I finally get to go to pelvic organ therapy, and I asked the lady when she called me, is there anything that I need to be prepared for? She's like, no, just show up. So I go, and she's like, I need you to lay on the table. Yeah. So I'm laying on the table, and I just start crying, and it just brings it all back. And my daughter had therapy that day, and she didn't want to go. So I end up in the therapist's office crying and going, am I okay? What is going on with me? I think I'm losing it. And she's like, well, do you want to do this mask therapy or, find out what's going on? I'm like, no, I don't want to know it. I don't want to remember. I don't want to know. I'm like, I'm literally laying there. The lady's going to insert her fingers in every orifice I own down there, and I'm freaking out. I said, I can't live like this anymore. And, what did I mean by the relationship with my husband? How can you have relations with your husband when you have seen what you've seen with your dad doing things with someone else? I mean, it just, again, and it's been way over many years. But this right here, people don't talk about this. This is something people need to understand. When they're going out there and talking about when men are arrested and they're horrible, they're awful, they're all of this. There's a family attached to this. It's awful. You don't understand it. You'll never want to be put in this situation, ever. We went to counseling afterwards, but the people that were there were victims' families, and we were the perpetrators and victims' families. No one understood us. How do you get help from that? So is there a silver lining to this? I can 100% tell you yes. First of all, I just want to tell you, thank you for staying with me and listening to this. This has not been easy to record. And I'm sure the people that grow up with me are like, holy crap, I didn't want to learn all this about you. My dad is in my head right now saying, you need to do a shout out to your bullies that were in high school and middle school. There were several of them. Faith was one of them. She was relentless to me, and there were several other boys that were relentless to me. And I just want to tell you that the reason I was fat was because I was protecting myself from being abused. So if you've had children, I just hope you can realize that your bullying did not help me at all. All right, so here we go. The silver lining. My mom is now up in heaven, has attained angel status. And after my dad died, when he came through a medium, he said, I never realized your mom was so high. My dad had to go through a life review. My dad was so scared of dying. So scared, because he thought he was going to hell. When my dad was dying, because my mom raised me to be the kind, caring, compassionate soul that I was, I called in a Catholic priest to get my dad his last rites. And that helped him cross over. And in that medium reading, he thanked me for doing that for him. I didn't have to do that for him. I could have been a bitter, mean person, but I'm not. I forgave my dad, and he deserved to have dignity and grace. And that bedroom that we were in was full of loved ones when he crossed over, and he did go to heaven, and he was forgiven. And now his job is to help people who have done the same thing that he did and worse cross over and do their life review, because they're just as scared to die. And he's trying to change the people down here who are victims, and he's using me to do that. and I've already helped several. We actually took one in for a couple months who was being abused. And I could tell you that the only reason that I was able to tell that they were was because of what happened. Why is it taking me so long to tell this story? Because I was shameful of my dad. I was shameful of my story. I was shameful of him being on the other side. I was shameful of having a relationship with him on the other side. And I don't know, I guess being happy and him being healed and helping other people and still doing what he did. But it's a story for people to understand that you can go to the other side and you can work on it. And then you can in turn come down and help the people down here heal themselves. And the reason I'm doing this podcast today is to say that I can no longer hold this shame, because if I keep this in any longer, my body is just going to kill me. I have so many people to help, and I've helped so many already. This podcast is going to help so many people, and I did not want to hurt the people that were involved. But I know there's someone out there right now that's struggling, and they don't believe that they're going to get any better. But I can tell you, you can. And I know that there's someone out there right now who is struggling with thoughts of doing things that they should not be doing. And I just want to tell you, go get help. Go to a therapist. Talk to somebody. Find out why. Did someone do this to you? Did your parent do this to you? Did their parent do that to them? We don't have to keep this generation stuff going. It has to stop with someone. Just please get some help. I'm just going to end with, I hope that you found some comfort in today. I know it was probably a hard listen, and I'm just going to put this out there and see what happens. And I'm just going to end with, whoever is part of my story, just please know that I love you and thank you for just being there. So if you want more information about 11 Intuitions, you can visit us at www.11intuitions.com.